Go Tara.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Teen Readout. We're excited to be here with all the youth and Christine Scarrow, the instructor, and our partner, the Saskatchewan Festival of Words. My name is Tara Dawn Solheim, and I'm here from Sage Hill Writing.
Instructor for Sage Hill this week, and to have the opportunity to spend the week with them. In just the span of a week, we've gone from strangers to feeling like we've made lifelong friends. I don't think any of us wanted this week to end. One of the comments I've heard most from the kids this week is how, as young writers, they've never really been able to be in relationship with other writers and share in the kinship that writers seem to have with one another. Each of them expressed gratitude at the chance to talk shop with one another and speak with their peers about their passion of writing in ways that aren't always as easy with friends, family, or non-writers. Our group learned very quickly that as writers, we share so many of the same thoughts, fears, emotions, how we like to spend our time, and how we encode the world around us. It's like finding out that you're part of a club that you weren't even sure existed. It's programs like the Sage Hill Teen Writing Experience that make these connections possible. I applaud these teens for their hard work and the incredible support they've given one another this week. I'm so excited to introduce you to these incredible human beings so that they can show off their many talents. So with that, let's get started. Our first reader today is a fiction writer with a soft and gentle heart. She also wins our Bravery Award. Please welcome Clara Slot.
The girl stood on the hilltop and looked up. The grass swayed in the light breeze which tousled the girl's floral sundress and dark braids. Before her loomed a magnificent mountain. Its peak crusted with glistening snow. The girl stretched her arms wide open, as if to embrace this familiar giant. A smile illuminated her face as she spun around slowly, taking time to admire the mountains that stood like weary guards around her home in the valley. The girl had always lived in the valley in a little village full of shepherds. As she looked down, her eyes could follow a winding path back to the village, smoke pluming drowsily from the chimneys of the little huts. On all the slopes and gullies and hilltops stood hungry sheep, chewing cheerfully in rays of bright summer sun. The lazy grass was a beautiful verdant green. The girl smiled as she stood atop that hill. Who knows why the girl smiled? Maybe it was because she was still young and had yet to find any worries. Or maybe she just knew that she was home. Thank you.
Our next reader is a returning participant to the Sage Hill Teen Writing Experience and is a double threat because Ren is also an artist. Please welcome Ren Brett.
Hello, my piece is about dysphoria. I hurt to hear she. I hate my chest, I hate my voice, I hate my height, and I hate my weight. I wish I didn't have this body. I wish my body was different. I wish I was flat, I wish I was tall, and I wish I was thin. Why does gender dysphoria have to control me like this? I wish I was different. I wish I was someone else. I hate this body, but I also hate that I hate this body. Thanks.
Our next reader is the sister of Ren, and she's a fiction writer as well. Please welcome Bella Brett.
It was cold. I was flying through the wood. Blue. Her hair was blue, as was her jacket and jeans. She had her legs wrapped around the trunk of a tree. She reached far for the nest. In the palm of her hand sat a small, shivering baby bird. She reached further, straining her arm and almost losing her grip. She breathed a sigh of relief as she set the bird in the nest. As she moved to go down, a crack rang, causing her to fall to the ground. Lying there on the ground, she felt relieved that the baby bird was safe in the nest.
Okay, thank you. Our next reader has the cutest baby brother, gets the award for sharing the most embarrassing moments, and is the first person I've ever met who isn't scared by and actually enjoys presentations. Please welcome Grace Freeland.
Always burning. I pressed my ear to the wall, trying to hear what my Aunt Rosemary was saying in the next room. Yeah, we had some troubles in the attic a few years ago. We were staying at my Aunt Rosemary's house for the summer to be close to my dad. He had a strange sickness and needed a special doctor here in the town of Grand Marais. I didn't know the house very well, so I was not quite sure where I was going. But from overhearing my Aunt Rosemary, I knew there must be something cool in the attic. I twisted the cold handle on the door and walked down the hallway searching for the attic. As I went down the hall, I looked for the opening but couldn't find it. Then I saw a small space in the wall. I pushed on the spot and it popped open. It was concealing a wooden ladder. I pulled it out and began to look up for an attic door. I saw the faint outline of a square and pushed the ladder toward the space. Nothing happened. I pushed harder and the space in the ceiling gave way to a dark opening. I quickly set up the ladder and climbed through the hole. I grabbed the ledge and pushed myself up. As I entered the dark attic, I heard a strange noise. I left the attic door open in case I needed a quick escape. I didn't believe in monsters, but I wouldn't want to outrule that possibility. I took in a deep breath and swallowed bravely. I yanked up the ladder and pushed the wooden door closed. As I sat on the floor listening, I noticed an orange light. It dimmed a little and then grew brighter. I began to look around at the room. It was filled with junk, boxes and papers, trunks, a palm tree pool toy, and even old furniture. Then I noticed an old bed with a blue comforter and willow bed frame. The light flickered again and my curiosity grew. I began to look for the source and found an old lamp. The light flickered softly. A small orange tongue licked the metal frame. It was covered in rust, but you could still see some silver in certain places. I reached out to touch the lamp when I jumped as I heard the strange sound again. I searched the room, only to find an open window slamming against the side of the house. After I reassured myself that the sound was just the window and nothing to be afraid of, I returned to the glowing lantern. I reached out and closed my fingers around the metal handle. All of a sudden, the wind began to blow and the room began to swirl. The attic began to melt away as huge waves began to form. I held the old lamp in my hand. It was late afternoon and the sun shone through the dark clouds in the sky. I was floating in the middle of a huge body of water. I began to think of how I got here, of all places. I had no idea. It made no sense. 1 second, I was sitting on the cold wooden floor of the attic, and next, I was floating in water. I inhaled some of the salty air to calm down, just as a huge wave came crashing down on top of me, dragging me deep under the water. I was panicked as I struggled for air in between the waves' hard blows. I held on to the lantern, scared of dropping it into the water. As I panicked, my head slipped under the surface. A fish swam by and slapped my face, bringing me back to my senses. I swam to the surface for air and held my breath as a huge wave crashed over my head and dragged me back down onto the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Our next reader is a returning participant to Say Chill Teen Writing Experience. She loves cosplay and writes a mean prison scene. Please welcome Gabby Bleon.
So slight trigger warning for this, but this is about one of my characters from one of my main stories. Alistair Lothridge was a plastic surgeon that was highly respected within the both Muggle and Wizarding world. He could perform any body-enhancing surgery with ease. One day, though, things seemed off. He seemed more poised, elegant, more doll-like than human. The reason why the well-loved man was this way was that a few nights ago, before then, he had caught his partner with someone else, saying that his appetite for intimacy was too much for them. He had finally snapped. They always said that he was ugly and imperfect, and saying that his hunger was too strong. So he decided to show them something, to prove to them that he could be desirable, even if his insatiable appetite couldn't be stopped. He fixed himself, made himself new, beautiful, handsome, gorgeous. He smiled, for he was finally perfect, but as he looked around him, he frowned, as he saw only imperfect bodies, crooked noses and lopsided eyes, asymmetrical faces and ugly pieces, inelegant movements and disgustingly grotesque reflexes. He would make them perfect too. He just needed his tools. And just maybe, he could have some fun with them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. Our next reader wins the Most Epic Moment Award as he brought a goat, like a real live goat, to our virtual pet show and tell. Please welcome Matt Anton.
Matt, if you can unmute, please.
Sorry. Birds of prey. They were young when I first saw them. White, white like snow. Small, small like the eggs they hatched from. The screeching warning call of the parents came from above me, telling me I'd come close enough. But I wasn't deterred. I was going to get as close as I could to those hawks, and I was going to take a picture for good measure. Unfortunately, the aspen tree that the nested baby hawk sat upon was virtually branchless, until 12 feet off the ground. But the aspen tree had a twin, and although the lowest branches of this tree were higher than my head, it looked like a much better prospect for climbing than the former. After a few futile attempts, I made it into the tree. A gentle breeze rustled the summer green leaves around me. I stood up higher in the tree to get a better view of the fluffy little eyeses, which is what Google told me was what you call a group of baby hawks. I pulled a Warner camera bag from my jean pocket, slipped out my compact Nikon, and zoomed in for an extremely up-close view of the birds. This became a weekly tradition. I would run the few miles back into our pasture to visit the hawks. And it wasn't long before their white bodies turned dark brown, growing to fully sized birds of prey. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Our next reader is a lovely poet who lives with a menagerie of pets, including a cat that, based on experience this week, will likely join us today. Please welcome Vanessa Souter.
I'm a human too. Every day this question is asked, why can no one see the real me? All they see is glasses, braces, or acne. But I'm still just like you. I'm a human too. I might have thunder thighs or a cereal bowl stomach, and my name could be Maddie, Kim, or Rick. But I'm still just like you. I'm a human too. I have dreams, hopes, and fears. But so it reaches my ears, they scroll remarks and rude names. I'm so sick of these games. Don't you know I'm just like you? I'm a human too. No matter what gender, race, height, or weight, it doesn't matter if I'm always late. No matter how I talk, no matter how I walk, I'm still just like you. I'm a human too. I may have mental or physical problems. Maybe if I listed them, they'd fill up columns. But please don't diss my ability. Maybe I don't have agility, but I'm still just like you. I'm a human too. Please don't laugh at me. Please don't criticize me. After all, I won't laugh at you, and I won't criticize you. Because after all, we're all the same. We are all humans too. I chose this piece because I know I'm not the only one who has experienced this, and I want to help others know that they aren't either and feel less alone. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Our next reader has an infectious giggle that was a daily delight. She was our early riser of the group, and it was a great cheerleader for her peers. Please welcome Bethany Chevalier.
Dragon wings.
We agreed to relinquish our wings, but we never agreed to rid the urge to fly. At least I never did. The memory of wind rushing beneath my wings never left me. Many tried to convince me it is for the better. Truly it is not so horrible, Donna. My name is Swiftest Dawn, I snarl. We're supposed to fit in, protests Cloud Runner feebly. Be like them. We're not them, Cloud Runner. We never were and never will be. I storm off heading for the cliff. It is the only place I can find peace now because I feel like I'm flying again. But it just isn't the same. Why did I agree to this? To give up something that gave me great joy.
Thank you, Bethany. Our next reader is a returning Sage Hill Teen Writing Experience participant. She's quick to give others support, and she is a screenwriter. Please welcome Lila Taylor.
I'd like to thank Christine for teaching us this week. This is a short story called Death Row, and it was written for Remembrance Day. Faith sat up in bed and checked her clock. It was 6 a.m. She got out of bed, changed into her uniform, and headed downstairs for breakfast. Faith sat down. A minute later, there was a message on the television from Hitler. Today, we get rid of all the rotten Jews. Today is Death Row. Oh no, Faith hated this day. Gave her that feeling of sadness and helplessness in her stomach. The same feeling Faith had when her dad died. Faith's dad was shot in war. She found out by a telegram. She was merely 12 years old. 10 years later, she joined the army to follow in her father's footsteps. But instead, she was forced to be an officer at a concentration camp. After breakfast, they headed out to Death Row. Faith took a deep breath as the officers gathered around. First up, the army general called, Maya, 20 years old, found guilty for being a Jew. Maya entered, looking around, trying not to shake out of her clothes. Faith had a strange feeling in her stomach, as if something wasn't right. Oh no, Faith whispered. Maya was Faith's best friend from Berlin, Germany. Maya took her spot in the middle of the field. The officers pushed her to the ground and tied her wrists together, before going back and taking their places. Ready, the army general said. Faith gulped. Aim. Faith knew she had to do something, but she didn't know what. The officers grabbed their guns, and in a swoop of courage, Faith stepped forward. Stop, Faith shouted. Everyone looked in her direction. What is it? The army general was indignant. Faith looked at Maya. You may not remember me, but I used to be your best friend. Faith smiled weakly. Faith, Maya shouted. She recognized her. You don't have to do this, Maya said, trying to stop Faith. Yes, I do. You were there for me when my father died. Now it's time for me to repay the favor. Faith walked over to Maya. You don't have to, Maya said. You could hear the panic in her voice. Faith, since you so boldly stepped out, I charge you with disturbing the peace, and your penalty is death. Take Maya to the city jail, and Faith, take your place. The army general shouted as the crowd gasped at the action around them. The officers took Maya to the city jail, and Faith took her place. The officers took their places and got their guns ready. Faith took a deep breath and smiled. She was going to be with her dad. Ready? Faith looked at the officers taking Maya to the jail. Aim. Faith looked up at the sky. She would soon be there. Fire. She wasn't afraid. She was excited. She was going to be with her father, laughing with the angels, and this would only seem like a bad dream. A second later, Faith heard the guns and saw the bullets. She smiled one last time. Then all was black. No more pain, no more tears. Faith was greeted by dazzling memories of her father and the picnics they would go on. She was greeted by the warm, glowing light, and she knew it was over. Thanks.
Thank you, Lila. Okay, our next reader is a fiction writer. Oh, pardon me. Our next reader is a remarkable poet. When he's not writing, he enjoys playing Animal Crossing, and he has a great sense of humor. He deserves an award for the most tenacious this week because he endured a lot of playful teasing from me all week. Please welcome Ethan Gabor.
Right, my mind said. For her, my heart shouted. Hands right at a gentle stroke. Passion wrapping me in a burning cloak. Beautiful words with no hostly sound. Charming, glistening, and piling like a mound. These pages may you won't tear, for they hold my selfless love and my tender care. I am not the man that you ever thought, but I can show you the love that you have sought. And now I tell you that my love is yours to bear. To love you and you alone, I solemnly swear. The vows we never say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. All right. Our next reader is a fiction writer with a sweet and sparkling personality. She wins the Best Lunches of the Week award, which I hear is courtesy of her dad. She also likes to keep night watch over her family. Please welcome Fiona Delmo.
Although we weren't close, I loved you. Although I was scared of you, I loved you. Although we barely talked, I loved you. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you when I visited you. I'm sorry for my ignorance. I can't stand still waiting to visit you in your resting place. Please wait a little longer until this pandemic stops. I hope you're no longer suffering. I pray deep in my heart that you are happy. I know life isn't fair, but I still cut onions thinking about you. The place you belong to shall be a paradise. I blame myself for not spending time with you, but I know you wouldn't want me to do that. I love you to the ends of the universe. Although we weren't there in your last moments, you rested hearing that my dad was coming. I'm happy. My heart ached at the news of your passing. My dad, who I have never seen crying, shed tears for the first time in front of me. I cried in the shower while getting ready for school. I still wonder whether you're watching your grandchildren grow older and older. I love you, and I'll continue living for you. Thank you for raising my father. Thank you for raising my brothers. Thank you for being my grandpa. Thank you, Tate and Bo.
Christine, unmute, please.
I'm sorry. And last but certainly not least, our next reader likes to stay up late and credits her favorite teacher for making her aware of this program. She is a poet and a fiction writer. Please welcome Ariel Constantinopla.
This is a poem I wrote called Colors of Love. Purple is for the way that I truly love you. Blue is sapphires you see when you're with your boo. Orange tangerines are so sweet, just like you. Pink is when you feel the blush rise to your cheeks when you're through. Red is the pomegranate juice you drop on your white shirt. Yellow is how sun-kissed you are, like a dessert. Cyan-dye in Minecraft changes the material by the spread. Lavender illustrates the colors of our Minecraft bed. Gold shines bright like the fairy lights on our dates. Silver gleams on our plates, knowing we were just teammates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. All right, that concludes our readings this morning. Thank you for coming.
All the readers, that was amazing, so touching. I had tears in my eyes the whole time. It's really beautiful to hear all your work, you guys, and so wonderful to see behind the scenes. I can see the chat and everyone's so supportive of each other. You go, you got this, don't worry. It's so great to see. So thanks to Christine for building a safe environment. Thanks to you guys for being brave and trying this online program. Big adventure to do this online, but it seems like the writing has come a long way, and we're really impressed with all of your work today. I was also watching the YouTube chat, and people are chatting there about the work, so I don't know if that chat will be visible for the students to see later, but I saw these are better than some of the published novels I've read was one of the the comments. So you guys you're going a long way. So we can't wait to see what you do in the future. Thank you so much for joining in the Sage Hill Teen Writing Program. We'd like to thank our partner, the Saskatchewan Festival of Words, for doing all the behind the scenes work and partnering with us on this. Thanks to the Community Initiatives Fund, Saskatchewan Arts Board, Sask Culture, Saskatchewan Lotteries, Canada Council for the Arts, and huge thank you to Christine Scarrow for braving the adventure and all of you guys for reading. This is all about you. So join us next year again. We'll do it again next year and hope to see some of you same writers. There was some talk about maybe continuing to meet online after the program. So we'll see where the writing goes to. Thank you all. Thanks to the Festival of Words. Have a great day.